Le lac Champlain, situé dans le nord-est des États-Unis. Bordé à l'ouest par l'État de New York, à l'est par le Vermont et au nord par la province de Québec, il est le 6e plus grand lac d'eau douce du pays. 200 km de long, 23 km de large, plus de 1270 km² d'eau claire qui peuvent atteindre jusqu'à 125 mètres de profondeur à certains endroits. Les rives du lac sont principalement occupées par des résidences secondaires, réparties dans plusieurs villes comme Plattsburgh du côté de l'État de New York et Burlington du côté Vermont. Cette destination est un lieu de détente, de vacances et de mystère. On raconte qu'ici, il y a un monstre. Le monstre du lac Champlain, décrit par certains comme étant l'un des grands mystères de la science animale du continent. Une énorme bête aux allures préhistoriques habiterait dans les profondeurs du lac. Des centaines de témoins, répartis sur 4 siècles, affirment l'avoir vu.
Don't know for sure what it is, but something came up along the side of the boat.
I don't know what I saw, but it was eerie and it was unsettling.
Something caught the corner of my eye, but it definitely something was there.
We turned around, we were looking at it, and it was a black neck and head.
This is totally, this is probably the closest rendition of anything I've ever seen that has been put together that fills the bill of what I saw.
Les différents témoins le décrivent comme étant une créature de plusieurs tonnes qui pourrait mesurer jusqu'à une dizaine de mètres.
There were 3 large humps protruding from this calm lake surface, motionless, and they just very slowly sunk beneath the surface of the lake.
What I saw was sort of greenish-brown, brownish-green. And it didn't have any features other than this sort of roundish, post-looking thing.
What we saw was a black neck and head of something.
These are the size of the fins that came out of the water. This size, that size. 4 jobbies that were purple, and this was all this pink color.
Journalistes, explorateurs, scientifiques, riverains, touristes, ils sont plus de 300 à être persuadés d'avoir vu un monstre dans le lac. Le premier à l'avoir aperçu ne serait nul autre que Samuel de Champlain. Le lac Champlain possède des dizaines de baies et plus de 70 îles. Selon les témoignages, la bête aurait ses endroits de prédilection dans cet immense labyrinthe aquatique. Baie de Bulwaga, sud du lac. C'est ici que le monstre aurait été aperçu le plus souvent. Cette petite baie dont la profondeur est d'à peine 10 mètres est un paradis pour les pêcheurs sportifs. Truites brunes, carpes, poissons-chats, truites arc-en-ciel. La baie de Bulwaga a la réputation d'être un secteur privilégié pour attraper de très grosses prises. Mais bien que de nombreuses personnes affirment l'avoir repéré dans cette baie, la plus convoitée des grosses prises serait toujours en liberté. Mais revenons brièvement dans le temps. Après s'être présentée à Samuel de Champlain en 1609, la mystérieuse créature aurait fait quelques autres apparitions dans la baie de Bulwaga, dont une en 1887 devant un groupe de travailleurs du chemin de fer. Par la suite, le monstre s'est fait plutôt discret pendant plus d'une centaine d'années. C'est finalement le 20e siècle qui fait de lui un monstre populaire. À partir de 1930, la modernisation de la route 22 qui longe la baie, entraînant un nombre grandissant d'automobilistes, n'est sans doute pas étrangère au nombre de plus en plus élevé des présumées apparitions. C'est à ce moment qu'on lui donne un nom, Champ. Et c'est à ce moment aussi qu'il devient une attraction touristique de Port Henry jusqu'à Burlington.
In the 1990s, there was a flurry of Champ sightings. There's several books on Champ came out, a lot of newspaper stories, some of which I was writing, and people came forward all the time with Champ sighting. This board was put in back in the 1980s. It was originally designed to be sort of an evolving board that would catalog everyone who's ever seen Champ.
It was in early December. We were coming back from the Lake George area along the lakeshore below Port Henry to South Port Henry on a Sunday afternoon. And so I was looking out the window and all of a sudden I see this post-like thing. So I turn to Bob and I say, "What's that post-like thing out there?" And when I look back, it was gone. There was no post, but there were concentric circles of water, you know, like big round ripples going out. And posts just don't disappear like that. We couldn't see anything. The lake was flat, nothing was there, but it wasn't my imagination. I believe in Champ.
La route 22 mène tout droit au village de Port Henry, considéré comme étant la résidence officielle de Champ. Au premier coup d'œil, Port Henry a tout du petit village traditionnel américain. Une cour de justice, une cloche de la liberté, des établissements emblématiques, 2 églises encore bien vivantes. Mais ici, les véritables cultes sont dédiés à 2 personnalités importantes, Johnny Podres, légende du baseball majeur, et bien sûr, Champ.
Why should you come to Port Henry? Well, I mean, all you need to do is look at the area. It looks like a European village on a hillside. It's just absolutely spectacular. And of course, we have our world-famous resident, Champ, who, you know, to this day, even myself, you know, you can't look out on the Lake Champlain without looking for something out there that may be different.
La ville est tellement attachée à son monstre que les autorités ont décrété le lac comme étant le sanctuaire de Champ. Selon ce décret, il est interdit de le persécuter, le chasser ou encore le détruire. On peut l'approcher, l'observer ou même le caresser, mais en aucun temps on ne peut lui faire du mal. La population de Port Henry est d'environ 1200 habitants. Pendant la saison estivale, le nombre d'habitants décuple. Son accès privilégié au lac et ses 2 marinas font fureur auprès des plaisanciers, des pêcheurs sportifs et des amateurs de phénomènes étranges. Mais si on devait proclamer un sport national dans le village de Port Henry, la chasse aux monstres serait sans aucun doute choisie à l'unanimité. Les riverains qui possèdent des résidences secondaires sont aux premières loges pour observer le lac à toute heure de la journée.
We bought our summer house from an old merchant marine who had traveled the world on freighters. And one of my first days here, I'll never forget this, we were out fishing in a very small boat off Port Henry here. And he looked at me and he said, "Ron, there are some very strange things in this lake." That sentence hung in my mind and really mesmerized me and stayed with me from the ages of 13 to my late 20s when that sentence came back into play. And I'll tell you what happened to that. In 1981, there were a flurry of Champ sightings in the Port Henry area. And I was working as a newspaper reporter for the Albany and New York Times-Union, which is the major daily paper in Albany, New York, the capital city. And my editors were interested in seeing all these news reports about Champ being sighted just 2 hours north of Albany, this major lake, Lake Champlain. And I wrote a 6-part series chronicling the flurry of activity in the Port Henry area. It was a good story. My paper played it big. So at the time when I was writing the piece and when the pieces were published, I didn't care whether there was a monster in the lake or not. But 2 years later, almost to the day, my perspective changed dramatically. July 4th weekend, 1983, I am fishing with my girlfriend. Lake Champlain is like glass. And my girlfriend is in the front of the boat. She says, "Ron, what's that?" I don't pay a whole lot of attention. We're being quiet, we're fishing, trying to catch fish. She says again, "Ron, what's that?" And she points, and I look to where she's pointing. And we watched for probably 10 seconds, 3 large humps that looked like large tires sticking maybe a foot and a half out of the water, motionless. After seeing these 3 large humps out of the water, looking back, I have to conclude, although I haven't seen anything since, and I've been on the lake most every day in the last 5 or 6 years in the summer, you have to come to the conclusion that there's something unexplained in the lake, and it could very well be, in my mind, a plesiosaur. It could be something that escapes all of our imagination and may be there yet to be discovered.
Les riverains ne sont pas les seuls à s'intéresser à Champ. Les scientifiques aussi le suivent de près.
I think he looks like a big fish, kind of like a dinosaur from prehistoric times.
Nous sommes de l'autre côté du lac Champlain, dans la ville de Burlington, État du Vermont. Si Port Henry a la réputation d'être le meilleur endroit pour voir Champ, Burlington est un centre nerveux de recherche sur le monde marin. Le centre d'activité scientifique Lévis pour le lac Champlain présente des conférences afin de mieux comprendre les mystères qui entourent le monstre.
My name is Linda Bowden. I am the Science Education Specialist, and we have an exciting program today. It's called Champ, the Unsolved Mystery.
Pendant de nombreuses années, des dizaines d'hypothèses sont émises. Mais en 1977, une photo retient l'attention de la communauté scientifique.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence that we have is the photograph that Sandra Mancy took in 1977. So the photograph looks a lot like what you were saying, a plesiosaur. When she first took that photograph, she wasn't certain what she saw, but it was something that was very dangerous. In her mind, she needed to get the kids out of the lake. They were swimming there when this creature came up behind. That is the only photograph, the only clear photograph of Champ that's out there right now.
La photo Mancy montre clairement le profil du monstre. Champ est alors associé à une espèce de dinosaure aquatique, le plésiosaure.
She took the photo to the New York Times, and the New York Times took it to an analyst who determined that it wasn't a fraud, it wasn't a fake, and the New York Times ran the photo. It's since been reproduced in numerous magazines, newspapers. It's been in specials about Champ. The Mancy photo is regarded as the most definitive proof that Champ exists.
Pour une partie de la communauté scientifique, il faut démontrer qu'il ne s'agit pas d'une illusion d'optique et que Champ existe bel et bien. Après des examens approfondis, il est prouvé que la photo n'est pas une supercherie. La créature photographiée pourrait donc, pourquoi pas, être Champ.
I have seen the Mancy photograph, and I've read some of the various analyses of that photograph, and it's a little bit of a mystery still, which is part of what makes it all exciting. It shows what looks to be a creature's head. It just looks like one of those toy dinosaurs from when I was a small child. And so if you imagine the head of a brontosaurus or something like that, gosh, this would look a lot like that.
When I first saw the Sandra Mancy photograph, I thought she'd taken a photo of a plesiosaur. I thought that this was absolute proof that Champ exists.
The Mancy photograph was reported to be taken in the area of Missisquoi Bay, in the northern part of the lake. However, in the area that Sandra Mancy reported taking the photograph, the water of the lake is about 14, 15 feet deep. It's not very deep. So a large creature would have a very hard time, quite a challenge, hiding in that shallow depth of water.
Même si la profondeur du lac Champlain atteint à certains endroits jusqu'à 125 mètres, pour les scientifiques sceptiques, il est hautement improbable qu'un animal aussi imposant puisse y survivre, encore moins s'y reproduire.
In order to maintain a population over a long time, there probably would need to be 40 or 50 champ-like creatures here to breed and to withstand the rigors of time. A very small population of one couple or one pair would really not be sufficient.
Parmi les arguments qui plaident contre l'existence de Champ, celui de la chronologie des espèces pèse lourd.
The plesiosaur hypothesis is an interesting idea. It has a lot of appeal to some people, and they can imagine what it might look like. However, the environment here has not been very good for a persistent population of plesiosaurs. For one thing, the rest of the world saw the extinction of the plesiosaurs about 65 million years ago. So when we talk about the history of Lake Champlain, it's 10,000 years. We have to remember that the plesiosaurs went extinct 65,000 years ago.
Le lac Champlain s'est formé après la disparition des glaciers et de l'immense mer qui l'entourait. Cette transformation drastique de la géomorphologie de la région a provoqué une conséquence majeure. L'eau salée a cédé sa place à de l'eau douce. Cette désalinisation écarterait la possibilité d'un monstre venant de la mer. Mais, comme certains le rappellent, la science n'a pas encore tout découvert.
Let's take a look at some of the crypto or cryptids, as they're called, animals that have been out there. One of the first ones was Kraken. As you may know, the giant sea serpent, right? Now, the giant squid, as they're called, have eyes the size of dinner plates. They have a very sharp beak. And it wasn't until 2006 that Japanese scientists actually got on film this giant squid. So what was a cryptid became, yes, in fact, this animal is real. And it was in water over 2,900 feet. So what do you think now about Champ? Could he be a cryptid? Could he be something out in the water we're not so sure? So I think we're constantly finding things that are in our seas, in our lakes, in our oceans that we didn't know were there before. And I think people are relating to that information saying, oh, well, if folks are discovering new things, then why cannot they discover a lake monster too?
Seeing Champ, I just think that there are things in my worldview that I believe we don't know everything. There's room for things that we don't know. And so I find myself gazing out at the lake at times, if I'm reading or walking. I know people that say they don't believe in Champ, and you can catch them looking, crossing the ferry. At one time, geologically, when the sea was connected to the lake, why wouldn't it be possible for sea creatures that we don't know about to have come into Lake Champlain and then adapted their existence in Lake Champlain? We don't know. And it's interesting not to know.
Somebody said it was a duck later on. You know, like, you saw a duck, don't worry about it.
It looked like a post, except it certainly wasn't.
My buddy was saying, hey, it's ducks, something swimming.
Right, ducks.
No, ducks don't swim at night, and they quack.
Un mouvement aperçu à la surface de l'eau peut être difficile à décoder avec précision. Notre cerveau, nos yeux et nos émotions ne sont pas toujours sur la même longueur d'onde. Un canard, un tronc d'arbre, quand ils sont observés de loin, peuvent mener à diverses interprétations. Une fraction de seconde peut être fatale pour faire une analyse exacte de ce que nous venons de voir.
So turn around, what do you see?
A rabbit.
A rabbit. Okay, turn back around. I'm going to change the photo. All right, now turn. What do you see? Tell me. A duck? A rabbit? Okay. Okay. So by turning the rabbit, our perceptions changed. It's still a rabbit. You're a little confused as to what it could possibly be. It's fun to watch how folks sit there and change their mind during the presentation and are beginning to believe that people may be seeing something out on the lake. Not sure exactly what it could be, but they do believe that there is something happening out on the lake.
I was working on the ferry boat Champlain coming back from Port Kent, New York on a hot August afternoon, and we were sitting up on the deck. And I was reading and happened to look up and came upon the sighting of these two fins that came out of the water. The folks that were with me sitting on the benches on the boat all ran up, pointed out, and ask what it is, and I was a crew member, and as a crew member I had to, after the second one came out of the water, I had to explain that it definitely is Champ. Everybody ran to the rail, and now everyone's jumping up, down. Kids are picking up popcorn, throwing it in, feeding Champ. Everybody's quite excited, and this was my first physical sighting, and I do believe that there is something here that is part of the lake's heritage.
Sur le lac Champlain, 3 traversiers relient l'État de New York au Vermont. Des dizaines de traversées par jour, des centaines de passagers, des milliers de pères d'yeux qui scrutent l'horizon à tout moment.
I came to work for Lake Champlain Ferries in 1980, in the spring of 1980. And I kayak a lot too out here. I house sit around here a lot, so plus my career here, I'm here a lot. And it's a pretty amazing place. Not a bad office. I do recall one spring where we had some high water and some wind, and I was actually working on deck, and the captain I was working with, Cindy, we both saw this long chunk of something with a little thing coming up like this, and it was clearly a log. I said, just wait, somebody's gonna come and ask us. And sure enough, maybe the following week, a woman came aboard with an 8 by 10 size photo of this chunk of log, and she asked us, did you see this at all? And we said, yes, it's over there on that shoreline, and it's a big chunk. So that's probably for me the closest, that I can say there was something out there that looked like Champ, or looked like something unusual.
What they do see is a wonderful, fertile grounds for speculation. There are many large animals in Lake Champlain, but large means 5 or 6 feet long, 2 meters perhaps. We have the sturgeon, the lake sturgeon. It's quite an impressive thing. There's a channel catfish that can be very large, and there also could be 2 or 3 otters swimming in succession, one behind another, playing and looking like it's a single animal. Now, there are some other possible explanations for what people have seen that look dynamic, they look alive, and that can happen when the wake of a boat, a wave train that is called the bow wake, from the prow of a boat that is moving through the lake. That is a train of waves that will pass right across the lake and be seen by people far removed from the boat itself.
Il existe 2 visions diamétralement opposées dans le débat populaire autour de Champ. Il y a ceux qui y croient et ceux qui sont persuadés que Champ relève de la pure légende. Reste que plus de 300 personnes sont convaincues de l'avoir vu. Est-ce que ces 300 individus se sont tous trompés? Pour tenter de répondre à cette question, la meilleure chose à faire est peut-être de suivre les traces du monstre. Direction baie de Bulwaga. Jim Carroll est un des rares qui affirme avoir rencontré le monstre à 2 reprises. Il dit connaître ses habitudes de vie.
Oh, I've been on the lake for 40 years. We're out there all the time. We go out a lot. We take a lot of people out. And you're always looking, every time you're on the water, you're always looking for Champ. At some point, somebody's gonna capture something on film, and we're going to have proof.
À bord de son bateau tout équipé pour les circonstances, Jim met le cap sur les endroits précis où il dit avoir aperçu Champ. Des touristes de passage font régulièrement partie de ces expéditions. Selon Jim, les conditions favorables pour repérer Champ sont précises. La surface de l'eau doit être calme. Le vent doit aussi être assez discret. En termes de navigation, l'échelle utilisée pour évaluer ces conditions est l'échelle de Beaufort. Cet instrument de mesure permet d'évaluer la force du vent par la simple observation de ses effets en mer et sur terre. Gradué de 0 à 12, plus le chiffre augmente, plus les conditions sont difficiles. La grande majorité des observations de Champ auraient été faites dans des conditions de force de vent entre 0 et 3. Aujourd'hui, les conditions sont idéales.
So here we are, and this is where we started. And when I was a kid, we were water skiing right here in the bay, just off.
Oh, that way?
Yeah. It's time to get going at a water skier. So we checked, make sure he's okay, and then I turned around and looked off to the side of the boat, make sure, you look ahead, make sure you're not going to run anything over. And right next to the boat, there was something that was alive. That wide, this big long hump that was as long as the boat. It was this little 16-foot ski boat. It was a little disconcerting. Whatever it was alive and just kind of disappeared into the water up front and off to the back of the boat. And to my buddy who's driving. We grabbed the wheel, spun around. Went to the yeah, like get in the boat. It's like, but it's my turn to ski. Get in the boat. You can see where the farmland, the right-hand one of those two, that's Arnold Bay.
Were you afraid? You thought?
Yeah, I mean, didn't know what it was. How often do you see a fish that's bigger than the boat you're in? It's kind of like right out of Jaws.
Did you see it again?
I did, as an adult. It was in this bay.
Twice?
Yeah. My kids were little, and we were out to dinner, and it was a nice night, and we were just putting back because we had babysitters. It was over here, actually in this shore. We were just putting along, enjoying the warm weather and the flat calm, and my wife says, "What's that?" now? And because I'd read up on Champ a bit, and gotten over that initial fear from way too long ago. Instead of turning the wheel and pulling away, we spun the wheel and we headed over towards it. And whatever it was moving away from us. We moved after it, and we watched it, and it disappeared. And all of a sudden, it's on the other side of the boat. And the couple that was with us, fella was saying, well, it's not Champ. Like, yes, it is. Whatever it is alive. It was swimming, and it moved away from us over here, and it came back. Now it's on this side of the boat.
Les conditions ont beau être idéales, Jim Carroll et son passager n'ont pas de chance. Aucun signe de Champ à l'horizon.
So with all of that, in the evenings on a summer night, when you're looking out over the lake and you see something you're not quite sure about, think about the fact that you might be seeing Champ. Anytime you have a conversation about Champ, you'll find people turn around and want to talk to you about this amazing creature. So it's a very popular program that we do here at Echo.
Depuis l'époque où Champ aurait été aperçu par Samuel de Champlain, le monstre n'a jamais cessé de se rapprocher de Port Henry. Si bien qu'aujourd'hui, Champ occupe une place centrale dans le patrimoine culturel et touristique de la région. Tous ont une histoire à raconter, un monstre à célébrer. Aujourd'hui, la vieille bibliothèque de Port Henry accueille un important congrès d'admirateurs de Champ.
This book is called Champ and Me by the Maple Tree by Ed Shankman. In the valley of Vermont, near a lake called Champlain, if you cut through the woods on the old country lane, you'll come to a meadow with one maple tree that's as high as a person can see. Do you believe that Champ is out there? Yes. Think he is? Yeah? Have you ever seen him? No. Have you known anybody who thought they saw him?
Yes.
Tell us a...
Babysitter's husband, he thought he saw Champ because they have a nice view of the lake.
And the story of Champ goes back not just into the 70s or the 80s, but you know, you talk to people that were that grew up with my dad, you know, that fished on Lake Champlain. You know, they've seen something out there that that was different. You know, even during the ice fishing season, they would see these shadows, you know, as they're sitting in their fish shanties, and you know, you're looking down your hole and you're fishing. All of a sudden, you just see this dark shadow, you know, fill the holes up. And then, bang, you can see down in there again. So I believe that definitely something out there. And again, you know, while you're visiting Port Henry, you know, I'm certain that, you know, most areas in the village of Port Henry, you can see Lake Champlain. So you're going to be looking east, and you're going to be looking for our most famous resident, Champ.
Port Henry est aujourd'hui le chef-lieu de plusieurs célébrations annuelles entourant Champ qui attirent de nombreux touristes. Depuis le début des années 90, tous les premiers samedis du mois d'août, le Champ Day propose de nombreuses activités pour la famille. Défilés dans les rues, courses aux aubaines. Champ est le héros de la journée. Plus tard dans l'année, les organisateurs du Labor Day lui réservent tous les honneurs pour la célébration de cette fête annuelle. Accompagné de Samuel de Champlain, Champ défile dans les rues avant de retourner dans son lac. Autrefois perçu comme une terrible créature, Champ est devenu la raison principale pour visiter la région. Camps de vacances, festivals, outils promotionnels, Champ est servi à toutes les sauces. Il est clair que le monstre marin n'appartient plus qu'au lac et à ses profondeurs. Il a été promu au rang de vedette incontournable de l'industrie touristique.
We started Champ's Trading Post because we found there was not really anyone out there who was doing Champ paraphernalia for sale for souvenirs. So we developed our own line that includes t-shirts and hats and shot glasses and mugs that have Champ on them. They've done really, really well for us. We find that it's really helped our business having the name Champs and drawing people in. People come in, they say, oh, we've looked everywhere for Champ things, we're having a hard time finding them. They're thrilled to be able to find what they're looking for, to take something home for their kids, or just a souvenir of being here looking for Champ.
After you've been spending all this time looking for Champ, there's a couple interesting historical spots you may be interested in. One of them is at Crown Point, which is just to the south of here. And there's an old ruins of the old fort there, and you can just wander through. Something a little more structured is Fort Ticonderoga, which is a historic site. They do reenactments of the different battles that Fort Ticonderoga was involved in.
The kind of people that come into our store are people that know about the Champ legend, are intrigued by it, have their own stories. Some have a lot of questions. They've never heard of him. And it's just fun to hear the different stories and to, you know, talk to people about what they think Champ is.
And at the end of the day, sit out with a glass of wine on the deck and then just enjoy the sun on the lake, and maybe you'll In those last moments, you'll see Champ off in the distance.
Port Henry is a magnificent place. It is among the most beautiful places on earth. Lake Champlain is an incredible lake to behold and to enjoy. And I think the residents of Port Henry are incredibly lucky to have such beauty and such majesty in their backyard.
If you come to Vermont near a lake called Champlain and you cut through the woods on the old country lane, there's a chance you will see my friend Champ and me playing happy and free by the old maple tree. And that's the end.
Qu'ils soient témoins oculaires, sceptiques, chercheurs, explorateurs, une chose semble faire l'unanimité auprès de tous. Champ est devenu un citoyen à part entière de la communauté.
Now, Champ is part of who we are. Champy in New York and also up in Quebec, very revered as an iconic sort of symbol for our area. There are potato chips also that are called Champ. There's different car washes, Champ. And of course, there are many different kinds of monuments. The lake monstre for the baseball team here is Champ.
Lake Champlain is a lake that is powerful, dynamic, full of surprises. There's something mysterious and wild about Lake Champlain.
Every single time I'm near the lake, whether I'm fishing, whether I'm sailing, my fishing tackle box, I carry a camera with me. I may be the next person who claims to have the definitive picture of the Lake Champlain monster.
Well, you're always looking for that, for Champ. And chances are that when you're here visiting, you're going to spot him.
I'm one of the people who actually saw Champ. And I'm not afraid of it.
If you truly believe or you want to, just chant, just Champ, just Champ. You never know. I'm serious.
I'm not ready to close the book on Champ, ever.
I do believe everything I've seen, everything I've heard, and especially with this personal sighting of something physical, that I could actually say, yes, that's why, I'm here sharing this to let you know that it works, Champ's good, and we need more Champs. Certainly.
So many people have such a great affection to the idea of a Champlain creature. And so I think the best habitat for Champ, where Champ really lives, is in the hearts and the minds of many, many people.